All right, everybody. I'm Tammy Kabell, and I'm with Career Resume Consulting. And today, subject of today's call is getting into the mind of the recruiter. In other words, what are they looking for? How do you get their attention? What are the mistakes people make? And this is part of the six-figure job search training call series that I'm doing twice a month for you. So today I've got Dave Templeman on the call, and unfortunately Louis Jamaica, who was originally scheduled as well, had a conflict, so he can't make it. But Dave has a tremendous amount of experience in recruiting, and he's willing to share that with us today. Also, he's very well connected in Kansas City's job-seeking community. So if you don't know Dave, then if you're looking for a job, you should know Dave. And are you there, Dave?
I am here.
Fantastic. Before I introduce you, I want to remind everybody that everyone's muted except Dave and me. And if you'd like to ask a question and you're on the phone, you can press *2 to raise your hand. And you can press that at any time, and Dave can answer your question in the last part of our call during the Q&A session. And if you're listening in online, you can ask a question by typing it into the box at the lower left-hand corner of the screen. So let me go ahead and introduce Dave Templeman. He's got over 20 years of experience, including B2B or business-to-business and consumer sales, with a focus over the last 8.5 years on IT recruiting and management. Dave also founded and he leads the Crossroads Career Network, is that right? Career Transition Ministry at Woods Chapel United Methodist Church in Lee Summit, Missouri. He also writes about all things job search related with a blog that's called thatjobguy.com, and it's quite famous. So if you don't know about thatjobguy.com, you should really start reading that because it's fantastic. And, of course, Dave's an all-around good guy. I don't know that I would say that. So let's go ahead and get started. To get started, I do want to clarify the difference between a recruiter and a headhunter. So, Dave, maybe you could speak to that a little bit, because I know that a lot of people that I work with and that I talk to on a daily basis, sometimes they don't know the difference and they don't know who recruiters work for and what recruiters do. So can you kind of give me that distinction, give us that distinction, and then maybe tell us about a day in the life of Dave?
Sure.
Okay.
And this is purely my opinion on the distinction between a recruiter. There's nothing in the dictionary that would probably make this distinction. Recruiters are simply people that are tasked with their organization's talent acquisition. And so a recruiter can work for, there's corporate recruiters that work for the companies, and they are charged with doing nothing but talent acquisition. Some are just simply HR people that do a lot of HR things and then also happen to be tasked with talent acquisition. They could be considered recruiters. I work for an agency, so I consider myself an agency recruiter. And as an agency recruiter, I am charged with talent acquisition for RiverPoint. And then RiverPoint, in turn, takes the talent that we hire and we market that talent to clients here in Kansas City. It's called staff augmentation. It's called IT services. It's called a lot of different things. So we're basically an agency recruiter. A headhunter, to me, is someone who basically makes the connection between a individual who is looking for a job and ultimately that job that they take. And so they never actually employ the individual that they are recruiting. They just make the connection. And RiverPoint does do some of that work, but it is not a bulk of our work. So I do a little bit of headhunting and a lot of agency recruiting.
Okay. Would you say if you were to boil it down or distill it down to the main components, a recruiter is paid by an agency or a company, and a headhunter is paid by the job seeker?
No. The headhunters are also, everybody's paid by everybody's paid by the companies that end up doing the hiring.
Okay.
The people that are paid by, in my opinion, again, and there's no place that this is set in stone, so I need to go find some stone to set this in. The people that are paid by job seekers are like you are, a career counselor, advisors that really are more tasked with being the job seeker's advocate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I've heard of some headhunters who ask to be paid by the job seeker, and so I was hoping to get that distinction from you.
That would be a red flag to me if a headhunter was calling me up and saying, I can get you a job, pay me X. That's a red flag.
Yeah, and that, from what I can hear, from what my clients tell me, that price tag can be $10,000 to $15,000 plus a portion of the first year's salary. It can be really
easily.
expensive.
And I'm not going to name names, but there's been some companies here in Kansas City that did just that, and unfortunately they've kind of gone to the wayside because I think people have gotten a little more discerning in their seeking.
Yeah. Okay.
But when you work with a legitimate career counselor like yourself, I mean, you provide a wonderful service that I think a lot of people need.
Yeah, I think so too. Thank you. But of course, I'm a little biased.
Of course.
So, let's talk about a day in the life of you and a recruiter in general. Tell me some of the activities that you do and what goes through your day as you perform your tasks.
Sure. One of the things that you have to remember is when you have such a high level of unemployment, you have a lot of people looking for work, and you don't have as many clients looking for people. And so our day is spent a lot of communication with potential clients for me, and I consider my clients the job seekers because I am on the recruiting side. We run what's called a split desk. We have salespeople that market the talent that we acquire, and we have recruiters that acquire that talent. And I work on the recruiter side of that. Okay. And so it's a lot of communication with potential clients. Part of it is, I have a job for you. Are you interested? Here's all the details. Part of it is simply people calling in and saying, I'm interested in this position, and then having to go through a dialogue of I don't see why you fit this. Help me understand how I can market you, because ultimately my job, and I do a lot of interviewing, I do a lot of phone screening, things like that. My job is not to figure out whether or not you can do the job 100%. Obviously I have to figure some of that out, but my job is kind of a dual. I need to figure out, can you do the job? Okay, if I determine you can do the job, how do I market you into that? And that's something that a corporate recruiter would not worry about. They just worry about whether or not you can do the job. And frankly, when they're doing screening, they're more concerned about experience, salary. What else do they talk about? They just go through the job description and make sure you fit all the buzzwords, as opposed to somebody on my side of the fence that really wants to know what motivates you to make a move. What can I say to my clients that's going to set you apart from probably 6 or 7 other similarly qualified people? I need to go into sales mode, and so it's a little bit of a different angle of attack. So it's a lot of communication with candidates. I probably make somewhere between 20 to 40 calls a day, and then I deal with another 100 to 150 emails a day, if that kind of gives you an idea of how much of my day is taken up with that activity. You mentioned something that I want to bring out. You had said that 6 or 7 people might be competing for the same job. And how many people for each job, in your experience, how many people are coming in for each job? I mean, what's the talent pool that you're looking through in order to bring it down to 6 or 7 people? Hundreds? I would say that, and maybe not hundreds. I would say, and I'll give you some examples. Right now, software engineering is if any of you out there are considering getting into software engineering or training into software engineering, web development type of stuff, the market has actually turned where there's more demand than there is supply. And so if I post a software engineer job, I hardly get any resumes in because they're all working and there's not a high demand on the talent supply side. However, if you post like a Windows administrator, and I'm in IT, so you have to understand I'm very much an IT blinders guy here, so I'm going to give you my perspective from IT. A more common position would be Windows administration, business systems analysis, project management, which is a huge umbrella. Those roles and types of jobs, there's still very much an excess of talent on the market. And so if you post a project management job, I could easily get 40 resumes in 24 hours. Okay. How would a job seeker, especially at a higher level, how would we most effectively work with a recruiter? What are some of your tips or suggestions for how to effectively work with someone like you? You have to understand that this is a relationship, and even though I do get paid by my clients, by the companies that I market the talent that we acquire to, I still have to have a good relationship on the candidate side, because if I don't have good relationships on the candidate side, they're not going to refer. Most of my business comes through referrals, and so they're not going to refer people to me. They are going to walk away from the experience with me as Dave Templeman, Director of Recruiting at RiverPoint, with a bad taste in their mouth, and I don't want that to happen. I don't want my reputation to be somebody that is just in it for the money or just in it for the companies that I'm serving, which is why when you're working with recruiters, the first thing you need to understand is even though they do get paid by the companies that they're trying to sell people into, they still should have a pretty good level of understanding of what you do. They should have a helping attitude, if that makes sense. They should not just be thinking about themselves. I personally think if you're not sitting and having a dialogue with a candidate and thinking to yourself, okay, I don't do business with, let's say I don't do business with DST, but I have a recruiter friend that does business with DST, and if I think the person I'm talking to could potentially fit a DST type of job, I'm going to give them my recruiter friend's name, and he works for a completely different company, and we don't have any sort of agreement that he'll pay me if I refer somebody to him or anything like that, and I don't get paid. I mean, it's just one of those things where you're trying to help somebody find a job. And so if you need to find somebody that really does have your best interest in mind and is not just thinking of it as a one-sided coin, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Do you think that is rare? Because in my experience with the clients that come to me, they say that recruiters are notorious for being very fickle, and they may call and leave a message and say, I've got a position that you might be interested in, but then when somebody tries to call them back, they never answer the phone and
never answer the phone, return calls.
Yeah. So does that happen a lot?
I think that
Are you a rare breed in that?
I hope I'm not, but I talk to a lot, and you talk to a lot of people too, and I think I might be. I don't know. I know recruiters that have my attitude. I also know that the way we are compensated really sets it up so that you're really thinking more about, okay, I've got this job order I've got to fill, and if Tammy calls me, Tammy really doesn't fit that job, and so I'm not going to call her back because I've got all these other phone calls to make. And this is one of the other, I have a high capacity for task, and so I can make all these calls and deal with all these emails, and I'm sending emails at night. I've got an iPad, and I sit on my couch and read or watch TV with my family, and I'll sit there, and an email comes in. Oh, okay, I can, it's just quick stuff, but it really is a communication thing. I think that relationships are, one of the foundations of relationships are communication, open and honest communication. And even if I've got bad news to deliver to you, I'm going to deliver it. I think that's another reason a lot of recruiters don't want to get back to people, is because they don't have any news, or they have bad news. And no news and bad news, it's not fun to deliver. And I don't like delivering it, but part of my responsibility to the job seekers that I work with is to deliver that type of news.